moving on to the next question. So we're going on to parenting. And it says, you mentioned that you have different ways of relating to your families of origin. Did this cause tensions when you had kids? And has your parenting style evolved? What are some things every parent must realize in raising godly, balanced citizens in today's society? Three-pronged question.
Yeah, absolutely. So my own background was a very conservative background. That's the way we were brought up, and I would explain. So we had time that you had to eat on the table. Everybody, the whole family comes to the table. Meals are prepared, they are set. If you want to talk about issues, you would choose specific times to do so. You can't just be spontaneous and just bring up, some issues. We also had this thing about so we were 5 boys in my family. I was the first. If I did something wrong, they wouldn't talk to me about what I did wrong in front of my siblings. And it went on down and down like that, So that was the kind of family we had, very structured. So when it's time to play, go and play. When it's time to come in. When it's time to do your work and all of that, that's how we were brought up. And I now go ahead and I met someone who, as they are entering their house, they can just about say anything. I was shocked. It was a cultural shock for me. Because sometimes I would just come back to the background and say, "Did you just hear what your mommy said now?" Maybe yabbing somebody and all that. How could she just say that? Didn't she know that there was a visitor around, which was me then, and all of that? But the woman will just go ahead and speak and say it as it was. So that family was like that, spontaneous. Speak, say things the way they want. They necessarily didn't even come to the table. I think I was the one that was enforcing this whole table thing with her. Somebody will sit in front of the television and is eating. The other one is just roaming about, and that's how they were. So bringing that now into our own parenting styles, we had to find the balance. Because I now had to learn that, okay, so their family is family. And like they say, we have a local proverb that says that you do not hide yourself from your family members, and what that means is that you are just open, you are transparent before them. So we had to borrow some of their, it wasn't easy. It was a real culture shock to borrow some of their style, and then she too borrowed some of ours for us to be able to bring up our children. So with our children, we allow them to talk to us. We allow them to challenge the status quo. We allow them to come up with their questions, the questions that they have. We tell them, I am sorry. I cannot remember hearing, maybe that's where I got this story thing from, from my parents, me, I don't know whether I heard it. It was acted, but we will tell them that, I tell my son sometimes that, what I'm saying now is I was wrong, but this is what my intention was. I won't always be right. Then at times I tell them also that, well, there are things I'm telling you now you're not taking. By the time you come to a realization of it, you're probably a father yourself. So you better take what I'm saying now. There's still what we call non-negotiable pillars of discipline in the house and in our parenting styles. We have, they're non-negotiable. No matter how flexible and how free we want to get, they are still non-negotiable. Things like respect, values, integrity, tell the truth, our spiritual heritage, which for us is very strong. They remain non-negotiable, and so that's how we've been able to make our children our friends, while still being their parents.
Yeah, so for us, I came from a background where we spoke about everything cleanly. Then there was no fancy or formality about it, and that was it, But coming to join, like you said, we've been able to come to a midpoint because I really admired Dio's fatherhood style, and that was one of the things that caught me even while we were courting. As a friend, he's into his children's lives. I'm more of, what do you need? I get it for you. if you need something, just say it. I don't need to be prodding you. So, he's the balance, because he would sit down with them, talk with them like they are his friends, like they are adults, So he's able to hear what I wouldn't hear or catch, He can catch their body language, so he builds them up. But I'm the other part of, don't be a CC. Say what you want to say, that kind of a thing. So it's a curious balance, because I try to also help them to see that life is two-pronged. You get people who will listen to you, and then you get people who don't have time to listen to you, and you have to deal with it. So learn to express yourself in a way that it's not offensive, because I had that problem growing up and getting into the general society. People used to think expressing yourself the way things are is rude, so I had to deal with that. So I've taught that, learning from him, I now learn to be more diplomatic in expressing myself. Two of my sons are like that. They will just say things the way they are. And when they got into the general society of boarding house, initially it was very difficult for one of them to really settle down, because he would just say it the way it is, and people don't want to hear that they are doing the wrong thing. So I had to teach him that see, there are ways of expressing it without, putting it in their faces, so that they don't think you're a bad person or you're proud. So yeah.
Wow, good stuff, man. Good stuff. I mean, I don't know which comparison to bring. Just growing. I heard a quote recently from actually our pastor. It says that the objective of parenting is not obedience. He didn't fill up what the objective was, but just that was enough for me. It's like, growing up, obedience was all, blind obedience at that, and
like compliance, really.
Compliance, exactly. That's it. Just that's it, no questions for why, no questions, and that was a problem coming to America here, whereby I wouldn't ask any question. I'll be thinking one thing, but I'll be complaining, and then someone else that says what I was thinking now gets the accolades or gets the promotion, and so it was
exactly.
Yeah.
So I vowed that, okay, my own kids, I would listen for them, talk to them, and try and get, okay, what are you thinking? It's not just about being compliant, but also finding the fine balance of like, okay, listen, I'm still the parent. These are some ground rules that are not
negotiable. Yeah. That's what I mean. I love that when you said it's negotiable, because that's for us to feel like you can say anything, but say it respectfully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next, role of faith. I mean, Dai already started by saying that, your spiritual heritage is strong, and we were very aware of that. So my question is, what are some ways that your faith has seen you through marital, social challenges in the past, if any, right? If any. And if you had to go through it again, what is something that you would change, right?
So I would say right up front here that I couldn't have stayed in this marriage if not for my faith. Marriage can be difficult, without God. I mean, there are people who are married who don't have any reverence for God or faith, and somehow they have their ways that they go around things. But the truth is, it's getting increasingly difficult to, especially when you face up with things that you didn't expect, or the pressure is so much from the different things you have to deal with. For me, I had to, do my career. I went into residency, and it was difficult. Having to pull residency, bring up children, and stay in a marriage, handle other pressures from other things, And then, as at that time, finances were a major issue. The monies are not coming in the way you want. I mean, I'm not somebody that needs money too much, but there were bills to be paid. So I had to really settle down and, help myself not to have a mental breakdown, having to face all those different things at the same time. And I wonder now how people deal with those things without having faith in God, because you would be nasty. You would be frustrated. Sometimes you can go into depression. So what did I do? I sat down with God. You know, I had to really sit down and think about myself. What do I really want in life? What are the important things to me? And then address it by the help of God. So I don't do things just like every other people. I don't listen to people. I don't want to be like you. I don't live my life on social media. If anybody that knows me, that I don't even know how people do those things, putting all your life on social media, because I think it introduces pressures that you don't need. There is enough pressure in life as it is. So I had to understand what God's plan for us was as a couple. Have to understand my role in my husband's life, his role in my life. He's been able to lead as the high priest of this home, and that makes a whole world of difference. When you're married to somebody where you share the same values, you know, religious, let me not say religious, faith values, you know, because people have different values these days when it comes to faith, but because we grew up together in the same fellowship, the same church, so our ideals about what faith is are just the same. That made it so much easier. So the other thing that I did, that you said something about what would I do differently. One thing I would do differently if I had the choices, be in my husband's life, be more participatory in his life and everything that has to do with him. I felt I was too let me use the word selfish, self-centered, you know, during my residency. I was too into, I have these issues, I just have to do this for now. So I left a lot of things, his own career, I wasn't really paying attention to it. So if I would do anything differently, I think that's what I would do differently. Yeah, I would pay more attention to him. I would help him with his own career more. I would pray with him more, not just say, okay, he's the man of the house, he should take care of everybody. The man of the house also has needs, you know. So, and I can see the results now, at least in the last almost 10 years. A lot of things have changed because I'm now paying attention. When he speaks, I listen. I listen to his needs. I listen to all those things. So, yes, faith for me is what has kept me in this relationship, kept me strong, helped me not to be self-centered or selfish, just thinking about my own things and what I have to do, and leaving him that he's the macho man, you know, knowing that he too needs to be catered for. Yes.
Wow.
And, you know, just to add to that, now bringing it to how one parents, you know, one's children, how we parent our children. So for me, as far as my children are concerned, they must also find God by themselves. Like I said, my faith is a strong heritage that I don't take lightly. Yes, so they go to church, they go to the fellowship, they do all that they need to do. However, I've always prayed for them that they would discover God by themselves and for themselves. And that has now begun to happen, you know, where they have been able to, they have a personal relationship with him, and they're now able to, I don't necessarily have to force things down their throat. So just finding God for themselves also. We giving the guidance, giving the spiritual instructions, moral instructions and all that, but them having what I call a revelation, you know, just a personal conviction that is irreversible, and they need to find by themselves. Yeah, so there have been times when I would not necessarily force them to maybe read their Bibles or to go for some summer Christian camp or but I would tell them that this is what is expected, this is how it will benefit you. And I'm glad now that they themselves come. My first one was telling me that, you know, as he moves into spring now and all of that, there's a summer camp that he wants to attend. You know, he has chosen his church for himself and by himself. He's been able to, he even, a time he was talking to me about somebody who was teaching wrong doctrine and saying that he first of all started listening to the person on YouTube. He first of all was flowing, but later he was able to decipher that what this person is saying is not what we have known. So I just put him right, and I was able to make a decision based on that as to where he wanted to. He's in college now, where he wanted to really go. So those are the kinds of things that we've been able to do to pass on the legacy, to their generation, which is very unique. They ask a lot of why questions. Why would God, if God is, why, all of those existential questions. And yes, we have to come from a point of view of the scriptures, but again, we have to be practical. You probably have to be an apologist, to be able to answer some of those questions and come from, and then come from a place where they can understand. I think understanding is key.
Yes, I'll just chip in there that I noticed that a lot of Christian parents just dish out rules for their children. So it's funny because we allow them to be themselves and then we correct them and we help them. I come from a family where my mother told me that, you know what, Ronke, I've been making my decisions since I was 12. And I stand by the results of that. So I tell my children, I said, all the things you're doing now are going to have a bearing on your future. Not just, so make the right decisions. Don't think, oh, I'm still a child, all of that. We can lead you. We can direct you. We can give you advice. But the final decision is yours. And when I was saying this, when our first son was much younger, I never even thought, there's going to be a time when he's going to leave home and he's going to be all by himself in a different continent entirely. We've not seen our son since last July.
Yeah.
And you can imagine. So it's as simple as that. But now we see him take decisions that are like, I'm like, oh, thank God. But there was a time he came home and he wanted to color his hair gold.
Since
You can imagine a pastor's son in church with the hair gold.
like Ochi's own, actually. I think there was a time
Exactly.
he was gold. More golden than this.
Yes,
Okay.
it was actually
It was like
literally gold.
how Paul Pogba used to look at the time.
So, and then they had that conversation. Initially I said, no way, what's all that? I mean, that's going way too far. But my husband was like, let him have what he wants to do.
Do it.
So he colored the hair. Of course, people raised eyebrows, but what I would say is that let him do what he needs to do. And eventually he cut it. And he's done that. He's been there, and he's saying, okay, there's no big deal. But if you prevent them from having those, of course, you have to not extreme things that will be detrimental to their health or anything like that. But we wanted him to know that you can be yourself and we still love you just that way while we advise you and you help yourself to understand. And the greatest joy is he found Christ on his own. He came up and said, I want to give my life to Christ. All the testimonies he's had by praying, by fasting himself, even challenging us as parents, So you need to allow your children to experience God and don't be fake about your life because they see it all. Help them to see your mistakes. You're also human. And like you said, when you're wrong, say, I'm sorry, I've made a mistake. So it's easy for them to also come and meet you when they've made mistakes. They are not afraid. They know mommy is not perfect. They know daddy is not perfect. So it's easy for them to come to you when they experience that imperfection. They are not like, somebody is going to wave one big stick over my head and I'm going to be in trouble. No.
Interesting. Pastor's son with golden hair. And I'd like to
Yes, so he carries. I have pictures.
But we had a guest that was on here, the Akinshalas, and what Bible was saying is pick your battles. Like the child is doing just pick your that. What is that in the grand scheme of affairs? But I was like, growing up, I can imagine going to tell my father that I was going to tell you start with this. This is how you start. Then you go back. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. So we're going to love languages. Okay. All right. Who I don't know who's going to take this one.
How you feel?
I think we should go first.
I told us it's evolving. So we'll get there. My own love language is the first one is quality time, and then the second one closely following that are words of affirmation. Has Wow. Well,
They're not serious. They still are.
okay, tell them.
So mine are acts of service. You just do stuff for me, because I'm very busy, I'm very active, I'm hyperactive as far as I'm a workaholic. I'm driven. So if you can be there for me inside, and Dio is all of that. In fact, I think that's really how he won my heart. So he understood that and he used it to the maximum. He still does that. So closely following that is quality time.
But now something is stopping doing that.
So, but time. Now I see that we had this conversation, especially at Valentine's Day, because in the last few years, I noticed that because Dio knows, her love language is not gifts or giving of gifts or what they call that.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
He doesn't really buy gifts for me. So I'm like, yes, I know that that's not my love language, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't buy anything. And I started to look at your own wardrobe. You can point to billions of stuff that I bought for you. So Ronke he knows I'm not materialistic. He knows I'm not the type that is wild by buying you a new car or all those things. But I now told him recently that I want the car. I want the things. So do it. Go out of your way, look for stuff that I like, and do it. So I want it. So that's why he says I'm evolving.
I love it. I love it.
So here, this is another interesting one. And just to follow up what Ronke is saying, Dio, me too. I said that, okay, I think instead of doing the space, I said, okay, all 5. I just do all 5. Whichever one gets.
Superman.
I'm good. But do you think that there are any cultural barriers to the love language?
Since you all are living in Nigeria, we're here. Do you see any differences? Like when we talk about love languages, right?
Yes, definitely, because my husband is a hands-on father and husband. So, and you know what my work entails, so he's had to spend more time, with the children than I would, even though I wonder that if I didn't have my work, I'm just naturally not a motherly person, I would do what is required of me, but I'm not the type of mother that will now sit down. Okay, so how was your day today? So how did it go? That's his thing. That's his thing. It just comes naturally to him. So coming into our home, you might think, what kind of woman is this? But I have my strengths, so I get the work done. I run the home, but Dio is hands-on. I don't know if because he's a firstborn, I really don't understand. Although he doesn't do. So his kids are, especially our last, he's so into him. He's so, we walk through the door and he just jumps on his father. If I come in, he might just say, hello, mommy, and that is it. But from the time his father enters through the gates, he jumps out and he's like, my daddy, he's like that. So coming in this society, is expected that the woman should be like that, while the man should be the other aspect. But we don't let that affect our relationship because, it's not about anybody. It's about the two of us. It's not, we know what works for us. We know, but that doesn't also mean that we now take it to the extreme. My mother-in-law stays with us for some protracted period of time. And I noticed that naturally she would not expect some of the things that my husband does within the home. Like in the morning, I have a nanny that gets the baby ready because sometimes I have to leave home as early as 5:30 a.m. and she comes in around 7. So in between that time, he does some stuff, makes sure the guy gets the food, the lunch ready and all that, and sends the boy off. So he's used to it. So she coming in would have thought the regular grandmother would think, how can you be doing this? You're a man. But my mother-in-law is not like that. She has come to accept the fact that, okay, this lady is a doctor and there are things that need to be done. And there was a day that I had to go out very late in the night. She was even asking me, should I follow you? I was like, Grandma, you follow me where? So she has really been wonderful in that aspect and not made me feel like I'm inadequate because
not fulfilling
not fulfilling some roles that are expected by the society. Yes.
And then there's also the part where, the quality time part where sometimes I just take her and I say, let's go on a walk. I mean, my house sometimes can be full. My brother is here, my mom is here, everybody. Look, let's just go out and let's go and talk. And I'm sure, in our culture, there's this thing about, hope she hasn't put something in food for this guy. And now he can't think well and can't think right. He's drunken for this woman. I'm like, let's take a walk, let's go and talk, let's breathe, and leave all of them there in the house. So for me, no barriers. And like she says, what I found out is that eventually, if you stand your ground, the people around you will come to understand what you really, really stand for.
Yes, that's very important, because there was a time when we first got married, and you know how parents can be. My mother would say, I want to come and visit, or I want you to bring the kids over, all of that. And I would say, okay, Mom, because not that my husband would mind, but I wanted her to recognize the fact that it's not just me now, it's the two of us taking this decision. So I would say, okay, Mom, I will discuss with Dayo. So after a while, she would say, please discuss with Dayo. So everybody got the brief. So it's the two of us now. And sometimes she would even she calls my husband more than she calls me, because sometimes I might be in theater doing something, I might not pick her call. So in fact, all my family members, they call him first. They want to get across to me, and they've made 2 calls. They will just call and say, okay, please Dayo, this. And I've been able to help them to recognize that it's the two of us now. Yeah. We're one, and not just somebody that you want to take a decision. And of course, he models that, because he would not do anything to make his family disrespect my place in the home. Okay.
Okay. As they say, Shikina, as in, no other question for myself, as in, yeah. So now, do you guys have any questions for us? This is your own time. We're turning the mic.
Yeah. Wonderful, nice one. Good job with this. How did you get inspired to start doing this? Because like I was telling you, okay, we also do this in a certain dimension and all of that, but I wanted to know what brought about this? Was it the fact that you had experiences you felt people would be able to learn from and all that? The great couch, basically.
Yeah. You're right. It was because we had the experiences. And then the other thing too, that you when you were saying about financial matters in marriage and someone there to show you, right? We had these mentors, they're kind of older people, and we're just like, wow, look at all the things that we've learned from them. But then maybe we see them once every 2 years or something, because they work outside of the country and then they come in and then we visit. Okay. So we were just like, perhaps there's a way to let people know what the challenges are while you're still almost like sorting through it, right? In that sense, and to let people know that marriage is great, but there are things that you have to deal with along the way, right? In terms of just trying to make this relationship yours and what you want it to be. So for us, it was a question of, you may be seeing this dynamic and all that, but like you said, Ronke, know that it's work. There's a lot of work that has gone, behind that. And so I think for us, the question is to explore some of the questions around that work. So specifically the nature of the Grey Couch, right? It wasn't anything we had planned, because we knew that we were marriage mentors, and we knew from school that we were going to go into the marriage ministry, but obviously we didn't know how it would work out, right? But we're not pastors, we don't own a church. So it was like, okay, right now, like you were saying, the next generation. So the question is, how do you still do ministry, right? Even if you don't have a church, even if you don't have like a place where people can come, but it's like you can still spread the message using the tools of the times. So I think that was what.
Right.
So I'll just add to that though. So there was and is a lot of shame and silence in marriage, as in the marriages that are not working, and even those that are working, there's a lot of secrecy. So it's like everybody comes for the marriage ceremony, big hullabaloo, balloons, but then the struggles and the challenges nobody sees, and the idea is that maybe it's supposed to be quiet, maybe it's supposed to, but everybody keeps on making the same mistakes over and over again. So we're like, okay. And I was a little slower to come on board, I'll be honest, because I was like, hey, I don't want my business out there in public, especially since you're still trying to figure it out, you know. But she's like, no, people are, you know, there are challenges, you know, there are challenges. And I don't know what we're saying, whether the difference between a marriage that works and a marriage that doesn't is just that small. The difference between one that will work out, like a change of attitude, a change of dynamic, just a switch from that side to this side might be what it is. Okay, let's get in there and just share our stories honestly and authentically. And if someone is blessed by it, if someone gets a nugget, then okay, we've done a little bit, you know, to help.
Yeah, while still doing our mentoring.
Mentoring one-on-one. But the title Grey Couch, you know, that was an interesting bit of inspiration. You know, I mean, the whole idea is that because life is not black or white, because marriage is not black, so it's gray. So let's do that. But I mean, I think it just came to her one of these, like this inspiration when she's grabbing your jotter, you know.
Exactly.
just quickly write it out, you know. And I read what she had, like, this is inspired. And you know, when you see something, the vision is written down. Let's get to work and see what we can do, you know.
Absolutely amazing. That's great. You're doing a great job, and we were even blessed going through the questions.
Yes, we went through the questions and were able to actually, you know, revise some things.
Yeah.
You know, this might not enter inside, or might cut it from here. But you know, you guys are the second people that have said this to us.
The questions?
That the questions, you know, there was never an elderly couple. They had been married for 30 years. I don't know how long they'd known each other. They haven't. But they were like, even going through and just discussing that, it rekindled some things and they enjoyed it. Wow.
Yeah, because that's another thing. You go through, you know, the motions day by day, right? But look at all the things that you people brought out here. I was like, what? I just so I was so blessed listening to both of you. And I think that's what questions do for you.
Yeah.
One. So there you have it, the Adesiyans nuggets, bucket loads of nuggets that we are going to try and tease out of this, you know, 28 plus years in the making, you know. Again, thanks so much for being just so vulnerable and honest. They have a marriage ministry, and so if you are in the area, you want to join them, they're going to let you know their handles where you can meet them and get some more of their wisdom and their nuggets. Okay, so you can send a message. Our social handles, Facebook is Adedayo Adesiyans. That's Adedayo Adesiyan. Twitter is @Mobolaji Adesiyans, @Mobolaji Adesiyans. And then YouTube too is Adedayo Adesiyans. If you send a message, we'll be able to respond and we can always get across to you.
Okay, perfect.
So thanks so much for that. You. Until next time, bye.
Thank you guys.
All right,
love you guys.
Love you.